Alright, so let's talk about the new McLaren Speedtail and how it stacks up against the Tesla Roadster. So I want to just start by talking about a little bit about the Speedtail, since this is a car that, well, just came out and hasn't really been covered on the channel yet. But I have covered the Roadster before, so you can go ahead and check out some of those videos if you want to get some more info about that, which I didn't talk about in this video. So let's just start off by talking about the Speedtail. So the Speedtail is another member of McLaren's Ultimate series. This is kind of their line of very high-end cars. So if you are familiar with McLaren, you may know about the original McLaren F1, the McLaren P1, the more recent McLaren Senna, and now the McLaren Speedtail. These are all McLaren's Ultimate series. So this is like, the top of the line, the most expensive, but also like the more kind of hypercar level vehicles. So the Speedtail, as you can see here, it's a car that quite honestly is like no other. You can just kind of tell by looking at it that it's an insanely long car, but it's also a beautifully designed car. There's a lot of stuff about this car that we haven't seen from really any supercar company before, and that really starts with, the hybrid functionality here. So it's a hybrid vehicle, and it's insanely aerodynamic. Like, since it's so long, it can come in this like teardrop shape back here. Like, you can notice that there's really like, it almost comes to a point here, which means that there's almost no drag back here. I don't believe that they've unveiled the drag coefficient yet, but they have talked a lot about the design of it, and we can only assume that it's going to be quite low. Other stuff about this car, well, it's a center mounted seat, which is really, really exciting. I have never personally driven a center mounted seat, but I can only imagine how it must feel, because you're right in the car, you're in the middle, you're super low. It almost feels like you're sitting right on the road. I've sat in a center mounted car, and it's something else. It's insane. It's also a 3-seater, which means that you've got a seat back here and you've got a seat back here. So it can qualify as a grand tour, which also means that it's got like a lot of storage space, and you can fit a lot of people. Considering if you don't have people, then you have even more storage space. You can just see like how large the footwell here is. And let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is these displays, and just kind of this cockpit view, which is insane. It looks absolutely beautiful. This display here and this one here, that's actually for the cameras, and if I zoom in here, you can see this here, which is where the camera pops out. So there's no side mirror, which means more aerodynamic efficiency, and actually cameras are safer since, well, you don't have any blind spot. So it's kind of confusing as to why haven't other cars done it before. But I think that has a lot to do with technology failing, because, well, the side mirrors are quite important for any vehicle. If we go down here, it talks a lot about, the customization. The logo can be customized, which is insane. Down here, it talks more about performance. 12.8 seconds to hit 300 kilometers per hour, which is insane. It's unheard of before. It hits a top speed of 250 miles per hour, which is also real fast. And it's quite light. We can just look at more photos of the design here. Now, before going further, honestly, the first time I saw this in my Instagram feed, I thought it's a photo of a Tesla Roadster, looking at the front of this. If we look at the Tesla Roadster, I mean, come on, look at that. It's almost obvious that they copied that. This kind of structure up here and the nose, it's uncanny, the resemblance here. If we go through more photos, maybe they have a better photo of the front. Yeah, like here, it just is, it's too close, I think. And I think that, I'm not sure really why did they do that. They could have, done it more like a McLaren 650 or 675 LT, which is a much more McLaren look. And actually, let's go back to the first picture. That's a little better review, where the light went all the way around, and it wasn't this kind of more futuristic looking thing. Because although this looks good, it isn't as McLaren as the older style of headlights. And it looks a lot like a Tesla Roadster, which is one of the big competitions for this car, other than the fact that this costs 2.3 million or something and it's all sold out. But disregarding that, we'll talk about the rest of it. So then this just goes on to other stuff about it. So now let's just take a brief look at the Tesla Roadster and we'll start talking about the comparison. Tesla Roadster, we've got statistics of 1.9 seconds to hit 60, over 250 miles per hour top speed, and 620 miles of range. Now, the Speedtail doesn't talk about range, but that's because it's a hybrid, so generally hybrid vehicles won't talk about their range, given that gas stations are so common. It's got more stuff here about their specs. The quarter mile, it does in 8.8 seconds, which is, again, it's absolutely insane. It talks about its 0 to 100, which is 4.2 seconds. They don't have the 0 to 300 here, though. But, I mean, looking at this stuff, we can tell that they're quite similar. I do believe that the Tesla Roadster is slightly slower, though, if we were to look at the accelerations. If we scroll down more, we've got more photos of the design. In the end, both of them are beautiful cars. The McLaren Speedtail can fit 3 people quite comfortably. The Tesla Roadster has seats for up to 4 people, but 2 people are going to sit comfortably. The 2 people in the back, well, hope that you aren't one of those. If we scroll down, we've got more stuff here. It's a Roadster design, which means that there's a removable roof. And then we just have the video. So let's talk about, what are the comparisons and what are the differences here. So we'll start with the obvious, which is that the Tesla Roadster is a completely electric vehicle as compared to the Speedtail, which is a hybrid vehicle. That has its own benefits and downfalls, I guess. So being fully electric, of course, it's better for the environment. You'll be saving money on gas, and it does offer better performance for the off of a start. Now, hybrid, it kind of gives you the best in a way of both worlds, that you can get the top speeds of a gas car, but you can get the 0 to 60s of an electric motor. However, being a hybrid still does mean that you're paying for gas and you're still, bad for the environment, and I think that more people should start caring about that today. If we talk more about the electric and gas power and the hybrid powertrain, the hybrid is to enable a higher top speed, but Tesla is already claiming that they can go over 250, and that's going fully electric. We can only assume that they've put in either a hyper-powered motor that can just spin super fast, or they've put in a gearbox. And I'm going with the idea of a gearbox, because even though the Model S, X, and 3 do not have gearboxes, they would probably need one to enable such high speeds. If we go forward talking about other stuff, now the specs that we see here, this is what Tesla claims is the base performance. And they do claim that the $250,000 version of this car will be faster than this. We have no idea how much faster it will be, but we just know that it'll be faster. Now, Elon Musk has been teasing us with a lot of stuff about it, talking about how it can fly small jumps or something, but I think we can just disregard that for now. Let's go on to some other stuff. So these are kind of where the Tesla shines. We can go on to other stuff about where the McLaren shines. So the McLaren Speedtail, it's a limited run car. So unlike most other cars, and unlike the Roadster, it's going to be a car that goes up in value. It's going to be a car that unfortunately, it's going to be a car that many people just store in a garage and wait for the value to go up. Even though it's meant to be a GT, a Grand Tourer, which is meant to drive it. In, say, another 5 years, they're not going to be seeing very high mileage Speedtails, in my opinion. They're all going to be quite low mileage, and that's I guess, kind of understandable, given that the Speedtail is a $2.3 million car. Repairing it would only cost so much, and repairing it will drop the value. So many people do want to save it, but if you want to save a car, why are you getting the car? That's kind of my outlook on that. Disregarding that, since that is also kind of besides the point of the car itself. Let's talk about other things. So the Speedtail, I think that the Speedtail, the interior, they have killed it. Tesla, we have kind of a photo of the interior here. We can see that they've got like this display here, and then they've got kind of a storage compartment back here. Now, what's interesting is that this seems to have been copied from McLaren, this kind of triangular shape here. Now, given that this is also kind of common in other supercars, but when I first saw this, I thought McLaren, and I'm not exactly sure why, but I think that this just resembles McLaren a lot, and maybe McLaren wanted to get them back for that with the headlights. I don't know, I'm just speculating at this point. But if we're going on pure interior, I'm going to give that to the Speedtail, because there's nothing like a center-mounted seat, which gives you a driving experience just honestly like no other, as stated here. Also, the displays and just the view from here, from the driver's seat, looks insane. And I can't wait to see more of this car as it comes out, because this is going to be quite something, especially point of view drives. That's going to be great. So I'm going to give that to the McLaren for interior based off of that cockpit itself. Let's go back to exterior, and one thing that I forgot to point out is if you look here, the front wheel is actually covered by kind of a little plate here. And that's actually because of aerodynamics. It stops the air that goes in and out of the wheel, so the horizontal kind of airflow, and it only maintains this kind of airflow, I guess, in the z-axis, which prevents drag, because then you don't have two airstreams that are intersecting with one another. There's still a gap here to provide brake cooling, but I think based off of this design, the front brakes are not going to be the main brakes in this car. It's going to be the rear brakes, because those are still left open. And especially at high speeds, these brakes are going to get hot, and you're going to need to be able to cool them. But if we're just looking at exterior itself, not talking about that wheel, I think this is honestly up to personal opinion. I love how the Speedtail looks. It's beautiful. But then I also think that, the car is so long. Driving this is not going to be that easy, especially on inner roads. And since it is a Grand Tour, it's meant to go long distances. Now, that will probably be on the highway for most of the time, but it's a long car, and I don't know how easy it's going to be to drive. But forgetting about the point of driving, because that's probably never going to happen, if you just look at the car, I think it looks gorgeous. It's a very well-designed car, but so is the Roadster. The Roadster also looks gorgeous. They're both different in their own ways, and looks kind of is up to you. Then we go on to the last point about performance, and I think that the Tesla wins out in this field, because the Tesla, it's got 1.9 seconds 0 to 60, and I believe that the Speedtail is 2 seconds or slightly over 2 seconds. Then, other than this, the Tesla also boasts a top speed above 250 miles per hour. Now, given we don't know what that is, the Speedtail says that it maxes out at 250. So if Tesla's talking about 251, that's kind of sad. But if we're just looking at like pure statistics and giving Tesla the benefit of the doubt, they'll probably beat out the Speedtail in performance. But I don't think that the Speedtail's main purpose was performance. I think it was to build a beautiful Grand Tour that will do great on the track, and it'll do great on a road if you want to do a road trip with friends, if that ever happens in a car like this. But anyways, that was just kind of my 2 cents on the new McLaren Speedtail and how it stacks up against what this channel is mainly about, Tesla and the Tesla Roadster. So let me know what you guys think about the McLaren Speedtail and the McLaren Roadster. If you guys had the amount of money to buy either car, not worrying about resale prices, which one would you go with and why? Let me know. I'll see you guys in the next one.